Good morning. This is Pastor Zach with the Goodland United Methodist Church with your morning devotion for Thursday, May 24th. Today I'll be reading from Romans chapter 8, verses 12 through 25. So then, brothers and sisters, we are debtors, not to the flesh, to live according to the flesh. For if you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the deeds of the body, you will live. For all who are led by the Spirit of God are children of God. For you did not receive a spirit of slavery to fall back into fear, but you have received a spirit of adoption. When we cry, Abba, Father, it is the very Spirit bearing witness with our spirit that we are children of God. And if children, then heirs, heirs of God and joint heirs with Christ, if, in fact, we suffer with him, so that we may also be glorified with him. I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory about to be revealed to us. For the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the children of God. For the creation was subjected to futility, not of its own will, but by the will of the one who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself will be set free from its bondage to decay, and will obtain the freedom of the glory of the children of God. We know that the whole creation has been groaning in labor pains until now. And not only the creation, but we ourselves, who have the first fruits of the Spirit, groan inwardly while we wait for adoption, the redemption of our bodies. For in hope we were saved. Now hope that is seen is not hope. For who hopes for what is seen? But if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it with patience. Paul begins in Romans 8, 12, 13 to make a contrast between two ways of living, which consequently have two outcomes. To live according to the flesh ends in death, while living by the power of the Spirit leads to life. Now, living according to the flesh is to live for what is transient, pursuing self-interest at the expense of others, and ignoring the presence of God. As an entry into the meaning of the phrase, one can think of creature comforts, those things that a person indulges in to please oneself without thought of God or other persons. Paul is not talking about flesh that adheres to one's bones. He used the term flesh as a metaphor for the human tendency to seek and possess all that brings immediate and imminent satisfaction to one's own self, and without regard from a spiritual perspective. The consequences of this way of living is death. Again, Paul uses a metaphor. The term death in this context does not mean physical death, but a dying of the self as God intends one to be, spiritual death. The alternative is to put to death the deeds of the body. Paul associates the body with human weakness. It is mortal, and although it is not sinful itself, it is a place where sin seeks to have dominion. It is open to failure and corruption, but Paul is confident that the believer can put to death those deeds of the body that are sinful by the Spirit. The consequence of this way of living is life. The metaphor refers to life that is truly life, the life that God intends for his own, a life led by the Spirit. It is also a life that has been an ethical significance. Paul says elsewhere, if we live by the Spirit, let us also be guided by the Spirit. Have a blessed day.